You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Senator Elizabeth Warren, she held a big rally there that was live streamed across all of her different platforms. And at one point during her speech, a group of protesters let her know how they felt about her opposition to charter schools. Here's what happened.
Stand the discrimination, the pain, the harm that Black Americans have experienced just because of the color of their skin. Tonight to tell you about a painful history that Black Americans have experienced and know all too well. I'm here today for a very different reason. I'm here today to make a commitment. When I am President of the United States, the lessons of Black history will not be lost.
Folks, joining me right now is Howard Fuller. He was one of the folks who was there with those protesters. Howard, of course, the founder of Black Alliance for Educational Options. He also longtime Pan-Africanist and also former superintendent of the Milwaukee school system. Howard, it's been very interesting today looking at social media. There have been a lot of people who have accused these protesters, have accused them of being plants, being provocateurs. But the reality is these are Black folks, parents, folks who came from different parts of the country because they disagree with Senator Warren's plans when it comes to her education plan where she wants to eliminate all federal funding for charter schools.
Yeah, correct. You know what I find interesting about all of this, Roland? I saw some of it online. I've been traveling back home most of the day. But, you know, this whole idea of people like Sarah, myself, and others are controlled by billionaires and all of this. It's like ludicrous, man. But the thing that I keep remembering, as I sat there last night at Clark University and heard Martin Luther King Jr.'s name mentioned more than one time, people have to remember that the way that J. Edgar Hoover tried to eliminate or try to make Martin Luther King Jr. less powerful or to harm the movement was to accuse him of being funded by the communists. So this idea of trying to change the conversation away from the reality of what people are talking about and then trying to smear them by using tactics like who funds them, that's an old trick. And the folks who are doing it should understand that we already know that trick. And if that's all you got, keep bringing it.
So, but let me also provide some background that people need to understand. First off, this was not the first debate where Black folks who are in support of charter schools actually protested. The first one took place in Houston when the debate was held at Texas Southern University. How do I know? We broadcast my show from the rally in McGregor Park. I spoke on stage at the rally as well. Last month, the debate took place in Ohio. Y'all were there as well. I wasn't at that one. And then, of course, what took place this week. What is interesting is that, Howard, I've heard people say, they must be there to tear down Elizabeth Warren to help Pete Buttigieg or to help Joe Biden, some other candidate. And I said, no, these folks, and I'm in the group, who support charter schools say to any Democrat, if you are against charter schools, you're going to get criticized.
Roland, any Democrat or anybody else. We're not there to criticize any particular Democrat other than the ones who have taken a position against charter schools. And so when we talked with Elizabeth Warren last night, we were really clear. Like, you have taken a position that attacks the self-determination of Black and brown families. And she started out, Roland, by trying to explain to us.
So hold on, Howard. So after the protest, because at one point, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley stepped to the microphone to quiet y'all down. And then she said, we'll be happy to talk with y'all afterwards. So after that rally, y'all met with her for about, 25, 30 minutes?
I said about 25 minutes.
Okay, all right, go right ahead.
The person who talked with me to arrange the meeting, I don't know who else was involved, she has a Black pastor. His name is Maynard Culpepper. And he pulled me aside and asked if I would talk to Sarah and the other people who were protesting to ask them to allow her to speak. And that if we would do that, he would arrange a meeting with Elizabeth Warren, which is exactly what happened. And so we did meet with Elizabeth Warren. It was Sarah Carpenter. I just want to say to everybody that this sister is like courageous beyond any words. She's inspiring beyond any words. And the only reason that a meeting with Elizabeth Warren happened was because Sarah Carpenter and those parents and those people who support the right of Black and brown families to have choice stood up and disrupted what was going on. And what was interesting, they couldn't figure out what to do with us. Some people said, you need to put them out. Some people said, oh, no, you can't put them out because we up here talking about Black women and struggle. So what would it look like to put a group of Black people out? So it was all really interesting. But we did, in fact, meet with Elizabeth Warren.
And in that meeting, and again, the criticism of her is that when she released her education plan, she called for the end of all federal funds going to all charters. Or does she call, is it for profit or all charter schools?
Well, if you eliminate the fund, it will impact all charter schools. But I think here's the thing, what I told Elizabeth Warren last night, is that her education platform is the teacher union's platform. And it's using all of the words, for profit, privateering, blah, 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 all of the words that you use. And she started out by saying to us that her goal was to have all schools meet the same standard. I told her that if that was your goal, you need to go back and rewrite your education plan, because that's not what your education plan is all about. And what I also told her was that her criticism of charter schools is giving air cover to all of the people in the various states who are coming up with all these different proposals to curtail charter schools, moratoriums, cut funding, all of these different proposals. They're nothing but a way to curtail the right of Black and brown families to choose the best education for their children.
Howard, and I'll make it perfectly clear why I stand on this. I absolutely support charter schools. I want Black people running charter schools, controlling the curriculum, controlling those dollars. But the other piece, and I think this is the most important piece, and that is not accepting failure. Not accepting failure of traditional schools, not accepting failure of charter schools. And I think I just don't understand for the life of me why two things can't actually coexist. Why you can't have traditional schools that are working, charters that are working, magnet schools that are working. If you want to homeschool, if you want to have online school, if you want to have parochial, if you want to have, all of that, I got no problem with all of it as long as our kids are learning. That's where I have an issue with some of these candidates who have this blanket attitude of, oh, no, shut them all down. That, to me, makes no sense.
Well, it makes no sense because you know, Roland, and any Black person with half a brain knows that anytime Black people in this country only have one option, we're in deep trouble. It is always in our interest to have more than one option for everything, because our oppression is multifaceted, and we have to fight oppression with a multifaceted solution. So anybody who actually cares deeply about kids, as opposed to an institutional arrangement, would want any type of school to exist that would give our children a chance to get the best education possible.
Howard, you've been in this game a very long time. It is very interesting to me to look at some black folks who oppose protesting last night, who opposed what you did. Say those things because these are folks who actually support protesting in other ways. As somebody who, longtime Pan-Africanist who believes in some of the issues, surely it has to cause you a chuckle, again, to see that kind of criticism when they also support other forms of protest.
Well, yeah, I mean, the hypocrisy around all of this stuff, Roland, is phenomenal. But I've been dealing with it all of my life, so it really doesn't really affect me. I mean, I just find it interesting that you got people out here who wouldn't bust a grape, and their only real contribution is putting out a tweet or running their mouth. If they think that some tweet or some posting on Instagram or some posting on Facebook or Snapchat, or if they think some podcast that they might put out is somehow going to deter a person like me, let me explain something to y'all, man. I've had a white police officer put a shotgun to my head and tell me that if I moved 1 iota, he would shoot me. I spent 30 days with a guerrilla column in Mozambique fighting the Portuguese. I've been put in jail for protesting. So all of y'all out there who call yourselves progressive, who think that some kind of criticism that you're going to make of me or people like Sarah or those people last night, that somehow we're going to like, oh, tremble and get all scared. Y'all crazy, man. Let me say what Rachel Willis said, the sister that died from California. She said that we coming for everybody who's coming at us. And y'all just better get used to it. And we not scared, we not backing down, and we don't care what y'all say, man.
Howard Fuller, always good talking to you, my brother. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks a lot, Roland.
I appreciate it. All right, want to go to my panel here. I sent somebody a note today. I said, we ain't moving 1 inch. And the reason I am as adamant about this is because I've sat in the room with white ed reform leaders, and I said, this movement is too white. You cannot have majority of kids that are black and brown in public schools, and y'all think you're gonna control this movement. I said, no, it's not gonna be the case. I sat in a room with about 30 people at the National Public Charter Alliance, the national convention a few years ago in Nashville. And it's about 30 people in the room. I mean, it's probably $10, $15 billion in the room. And there's 2 black people, 1 Latino guy. And I was talking about my initiative, School Choice is a black choice. And Latino guy says, you know what, and I believe in diversity and inclusion. And he says, I keep hearing black. He said, what about Latino? I said, hey, man, you are more than welcome to start School Choice is a Latino choice. Roland here for black people. And I looked them all in the eye, and I said, let me tell y'all something. Y'all ain't going nowhere unless you deal with the Congressional Black Caucus. Y'all can't even get a meeting with them. I said, it's enough alphas in Congress, I can call a chapter meeting. Y'all can't call nobody. I know for the Sigma and Omega, it's rough for y'all, I know. But I had to let them know that. And the reason I'm adamant about it because if we know we can't afford private schools. But if you tell me there's a way for me to create a curriculum and control the hiring and control the economics and control the contracts, oh, ain't no way in hell I'm going to sit there and say no to that. I mean, how many HBCUs has a charter school in this country, Doc?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I know we had one, but it's not actually ours. It's on our campus.
Right. But again, though, the point is, it's amazing to me to have folks who say, I'm opposed to this when we've got public HBCUs, private HBCUs, we got partnerships. I'm about, can our kids get educated? And that, to me, is the fundamental problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're talking about the sort of Howard University School of Mathematics that's right on our campus, it's not controlled by us, it's not owned by us, but it's housed on our campus. I mean, I think the charter school thing is tricky, in part because Yeah, control is one thing, but one of the things you talked about is like control of everything, right? The hiring and all these other things. And I think that can get tricky, particularly when you're talking about teachers, right? I think those kind of worker protections are important. I don't think teachers' unions are by any stretch bastions of merit. But I think we need to be mindful of that because a lot of those people teaching in those spaces are also black folks,
right.
too.
Again, but
and
a
we
lot
need
of
to be
those
mindful
people,
of that.
But a lot of people who are teaching, who are black, are also critical of that very system because it's constraining them. I've had black former traditional public school teachers who are like, yo, I know what works. I can't do it in that system, but I can do it over here.
Absolutely.
And these folks are saying, if you got candidates who say, no, shut these down, I'm sorry, Ray, they're like, no, they ain't gonna fly.
I think first I need to say in full disclosure, I've done work with teachers unions and I've worked for teachers unions in consulting capacity. So I want those viewers who hear that.
Hey, why we just look? I've given keynote to teachers unions and to school choice people.
Fair, but your viewers know that about you, and I want to make sure they know that about me before I keep going. But I think one of the important things, the same way Dr. Carter alludes to the worker protection, we need to make sure we have accountability of public dollars. And that's something that you alluded to around the question of for-profits that I would be interested in Dr. Fuller expanding upon, because where public dollars are going, the public has a right to have an understanding of what's happening there. Where public dollars are going, the public has a right to be able to see how it's being allocated and the effectiveness of it.
But does that apply to private colleges because public dollars go there?
Yes, in the spaces of private colleges where the public dollars are going, yes, it should. One of the places that I think is that's an error there.
No, they don't. I mean,
fine.
Again, everybody who's watching, do understand when you get a Pell Grant to go to Howard or Spelman or Morehouse, that's public dollars going to a private institution.
But
that's problem. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but they don't just get to run roughshod over that money, right? Like, it's not just.
No. But the point is.
No, it is a public dollar going to a private institution, but it's known what that amount is, what it's supposed to be used for. So I think that's a little bit different than what Ray was saying.
No, actually, first of all, 67 to 70% of all charters are actually mom and pop, but what they are actually largely run by churches. So first of all, so what happens is in this conversation, folks want to somehow present the position that, especially some of the critics out there, that for-profits are controlling all these schools. They're not. They're nearly 70% are nonprofits, and so that's just a fact. And they are public schools. In many of these states, the school boards have to approve the school.
That was a reference to where I was going to go, where a state such as Maryland has a good relationship with their charter school system, in large part because there's the cooperation between the public sector and the charter operators that are functioning in that way. The teachers in Maryland are members of their local teachers unions and have some of the worker protections. They do still have the charter operators that can set their own course and move in that direction. To your point, though, Roland, I will say that those black advocates for charter schools, you are doing this job, but for others who want to amplify the point, need to check your homies, the short version. Because to your point, it is too white, and too often the language, the conversation, and the public face of it is often driven by the minority of the for-profit institutions that we're talking about.
And I can tell you.
And it becomes a way where folks who are working class, folks who are workers, and folks who have public accountability to public dollars look at that and say, that's not a thing I want to support because of what they see as the public image.
And I'll tell you, Howard has been, look, he's been fighting this a long time, way before I came on. But Julian, here's the thing that, for me, it still boils down to: are our kids learning? I had a conversation with Dr. Steve Perry today, and he was having a conversation with this guy in Connecticut, and he was telling me how there's a school there where literally 0% of the black kids are proficient.
Wow.
And the answer is to build another school. He said, please explain to me how building a new building is going to change that when you just built a new building 2 years ago for the other school that has 0% and they still at 0%. He said he's gotten students who came from traditional schools who could not even read the explanation of the reading plan. I mean, and again, my brother, 3 sisters are teachers. 2 sisters are teacher, 1 teacher's 8. And to listen to these stories, you sitting here going, that's our future? Woo!
I think if we got an avenue for charter schools to benefit our kids, we have the funds, why not do that? You know, looking at public schools and how we're seeing our kids are not being taught, they're not getting the attention that they need. You know, if charter schools is going to be an avenue for our kids, why not? If we have the funds, like you saying, if you're going to hire the right people, first you got to hire the right people to teach our kids. That's one of the biggest problems I see when I go to some schools to mentor. I don't see nobody that looks like me, so therefore, that's one of the problems. If you don't have a male black teacher, not necessarily a black female, but a male black teacher has a big impact on schools these days. And that's missed in a lot of schools, whether it's private, public, or charter. And a lot of these administrators, they don't see that. I don't want, you know, you guys are educators, y'all in their field, but explain to me, why is that? I mean, I know they're out there. I know there are black male teachers out there, but I think that is one of the biggest problems. We don't have enough black male teachers in the education system.
Let me tell you something. We had on this show, brother, Sean's last name is escaping me.
In Baltimore?
No, D.C.
Okay.
Who opened an all black male school here in D.C. Who took the same black boys who was going to the school down the street where they said they couldn't learn and put them boys in that school. Now they're learning. Now here's my whole deal. This is my whole deal. If Sean is doing that, ain't no way in hell I'm saying shut that down. But if Sean's not doing the job, you got to go. See, that's where I draw the line. I can't accept failure in any way.
Right.
Traditional, charter, magnet, I don't care. But the problem is we have people who are defending jobs, they're defending money, they're defending contracts, they're defending all that other stuff, and ain't doing a damn thing about the kids. And I know some people out there, I'm gonna pull up in a second, I had somebody tell me, they said, yeah, but who getting the money from these charters? I said, who getting the textbook contract, the food services contract, the janitorial contract? I said, so y'all would have had this conversation. I said, let's go talk about who's actually getting the money at major urban school districts. I said, trust me, it ain't black companies.
But I think your point, though, I think is one that I think most people are concerned with, is this question that charters already mean success, and that's not true.
No.
And I think that is part of
Nothing
the
means success
exactly
until you actually can show success.
Exactly, and I think that is a part of the conversation that gets missed, right? People think of charter as, oh, this is the magic bullet. This is going to make all our dreams come true. And as you rightly point out, all of them are not equally able to do those things.
No.
Not because people don't want to do those things or don't have noble goals. There could be lots of reasons why. And to your issue about black male teachers, I think part of this issue is about the feminization of work. To a certain extent, we have feminized nursing. We have feminized teaching and said those are women's jobs. And now that we're in a situation where you actually have a crisis, right? I mean, there are plenty of programs that are trying to pull black men into this profession for these exact reasons.
But guess what? Many of your charters have more diverse workforces, especially with black males, than traditional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if I am in control of the hiring.
Well, they don't also have to be certified.
No. Hold on.
Not in all cases.
Hold on.
But
that's
Sean
what it
has a
is.
system, though.
Hold on. It's some uncertified folks in traditional schools.
I'm not saying that don't, but I'm just saying you can make different choices.
But here's the whole point, though.
Less restrictions on who you can hire.
But here's also the question. Certification by whom?
Listen, I'm not disputing that. But what I'm just saying, but you can make different choices when you're a charter.
To back up what you're saying, I would say try it just to see. We're already seeing what doesn't work right now, right? History has shown this is not working for our kids. So why not try? No, hold on. Why not try what you're saying?
You already have it. You have examples of what works in traditional, what works in charter. What I don't understand is how people can't say, hold up, if this is working, study it, replicate it. Traditional, if that's working in charter, study it, replicate it. The problem, which is why they're protesting, is no, shut it down. That's why they're protesting.
Right, but that can be two sides of the same coin.
Right.
And I think Dr. Carter's done a great job laying out some of the worker issues, some of the questions about accountability and things of the sort. Roland, your question about who's authorizing the certification of teachers is a valid question, fair enough. I think that's separate from the question of particular charter schools and the teachers there. One of the challenges we've had, right, and the point that Roland seems to be making that I would echo is anyone who takes a wholesale approach that this is flawed, throw it all away, this is is this, let it all be good, is flawed and problematic. To one point to your question about black male teachers, we have to look at alternative teaching programs, right? And while this might be anecdotal, I had a friend out of Watts, California, who wanted to be a history teacher. He had a 3.1 GPA, applied for one of the alternative teaching programs. I won't name which one, but they said no to him. Then I came across a young woman who was a white woman who applied for that same program, comparable GPA, ironically went to Syracuse University, and she was a teacher. And she said, I was doing this 2 years because I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do before law school. So if you're going to say education is the vehicle of social mobility, and you're going to put the alternative teaching programs teachers in front of perhaps the most vulnerable people in the United States, and the people who are doing the teaching are figuring it out as opposed to people committed to education, that becomes flawed and problematic. And we've seen, forgive me real quick, but one example in Baltimore, where I'm from and where I live now, one of the examples we've had is a decrease in black teachers and whole decrease in black male teachers in a school system that has nearly 80% black student population because of their contracts with some alternative teaching programs, and the alternative teaching programs has the selectivity that becomes flawed and problematic, that doesn't put the black teachers, particularly the black male teachers you alluded to, in front of these black students, where we know every student, regardless of race, regardless of gender, does better in the United States when they have black teachers.
And we have to confront again, and this is also a difference between charters and traditional. If I have the flexibility to pay you more because you're delivering in the classroom, I am going to be frustrated as hell with a system that says, oh, no, we can't do that. We know you're killing it, but because you don't have a level of seniority, we're going to do. My brother became a culinary teacher at a high school in Houston, led the culinary program to a state championship, to a national championship. They come to him and they say, hey, we want you to be over the program. We can't pay you more because of you've only been here 3 years. And he's going, I'm sorry, state championship, national championship. Put a woman over the program with no background in culinary arts because she had the requisite seniority. If there were charter schools who were recruiting him who were like, yo, come. And see, this is one of those things, that same thing, because young black talent is saying, hey, I'm not going to go into this profession and say, teach for 30 years, and then you're going to get hooked up with that pension down the road. You got young black folks saying, no. If I'm worth 60 or 65 or 70, 75, pay me right now. And that's also, in talking to some former black folks who were teachers or administrators in traditional school system, who said that's what they struggled with, because they said we were losing people because I could not work around that system.
In that situation, I'm sorry, would your brother ask to do more work? I imagine yes, because if nothing else, outside
to go from being a teacher to own a program
outside of the charter traditional question, right? Now we have to ask how the Houston School Board is adjudicating their payment, because if you ask me to do more work, you pay me more. And that's a worker protection question.
But he's already proven himself.
But this is also why other countries do better than us, right? Because they actually take teaching as a vocation seriously. They not only pay their teachers well, it is actually a very high bar to entry to be a teacher. It's like being a doctor, if not more taxing, because they recognize what the value of a good teacher is. When you have a good teacher, a dedicated teacher, early, who treats this as a profession, as something you actually have to get better at and be innovative and thoughtful about, you get better outcomes. So this is why other countries are doing better than us. It's not magic. It's because they actually invest in it and treat it like the noble profession that it is. And if charter schools can do that, hey, do that. If public schools can do that, do that. And I think nobody is disputing how variety is actually really important for black choices.
There are folks who are.
I'm just saying. No one thoughtful. Exactly. That's a good way.
No one thoughtful.
No, that's true.
Keyword.
They're not thoughtful on this issue. They're not thoughtful on this issue.
Some very smart people who we know very well who are like, Roland, you're wrong on this. And I'm like, I ain't backing down. Because bottom line is this here. There's an African American out there who is a hell of an administrator who can't do jack, stuck in a system that's set in stone. And if I can break loose of that and create my own school, because here's what I want. KIPP got 200 schools across the country.
Oof.
Whew.
I want a black KIPP. I want a black Yes Network. I want black folks running 100 and 200 schools. When I sat there in Denver and sat with a brother who runs a charter school, who is teaching those students utilizing Egyptian education techniques, I want to see him get more schools. But if I don't have a way for him to do it, then it can't happen. That's what we got to understand. So I say to Democratic candidates, let me tell y'all this last point here. There were 18% of black women who somehow voted for Ron DeSantis. They still trying to figure out how that happened on this issue. Because I'm telling y'all, Democrats, you better listen. There are black women out there who ain't playing when it comes to their kids' education. And if you stay in the way of charter schools and them black mamas are saying, ain't no way in hell I'm accepting failing schools, okay, go ahead. Y'all want to play with them black mamas. I wouldn't advise it, Ray.
You just alluded to, now you did it really well, you just alluded to one of the challenges you face with black folks, right? The two organization names that you just cited for having so many charter schools don't do good favors for you and the advocates of public charter schools, particularly in contrast to the brother you're talking about in Denver,
which is why I travel the country advocating for black-run charter schools, and I ain't got no problem doing it. So when I say it to the largely white movement, I ain't scared of none of y'all, just like Howard. And I'm going to look white folks in the eye and say, we need to be running this. And I've said to black folks, and the NAACP, they can have that moratorium all they want to, ain't going to mean nothing to me. You know why? Because there's some mamas and daddies out there who are sick and tired of sending their kids to fail in school. So if some folks want to defend failure, knock yourself out. But like Howard said, we ain't going nowhere. All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, as the marijuana momentum continues, our friends at marijuanastock.org have already reached more than half of their funding goal for the hemp CBD investment. That's right. If you want to take advantage of the great opportunity, you better do it real quick because it won't last much longer. If you don't know, I'm talking about the hemp plant, the good cousin to marijuana with a much higher concentration of CBD. That means hemp gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Also, if you don't know, hemp farming is now legal in the United States, creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. Now, folks, it's an opportunity for you to invest, and that's where 420 Real Estate comes in. The business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. As hemp continues to change the economic landscape, 420 Real Estate is allowing you to chase the American dream. Now, the best part is you can invest in this crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200. That's right, $200 up to 10 grand. To invest, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get in the game, folks, and get in the game now. Back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.